Let me introduce Piotr Homola from the Institute of Nuclear Physics of Polish Academy of Sciences. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. I'm delighted to attend the conference where both philosophers and physicists, scientists are taking the floor. This is kind of a physics session, I understand. So also Grzegorz Karwasz, after my talk, will give a physics talk. So I'm going to share some thoughts on faith, reason, and science. So maybe it sounds philosophical, but it will be about a possible practical way how philosophy can help in achieving a major progress in science, a practical way. So for full clarity and transparency, I have to admit that it will be only my personal perspective, personal thoughts as an astroparticle physicist and a Catholic. I'm interested in a sense that both faith, but taken not necessarily only in a religious way, faith in a wider sense, all beliefs can be in this notion, that it is somehow reconciled with reason and with science, my everyday work. So that will be in short the talk. So let me start with the need of a major progress. So I'm sure you are aware that the key theories that describe our world disagree in a common range of physical parameter space. So we have quantum field theory, we have general relativity. They both work very well, but they are not reconciled in the range where we would like to have something called quantum gravity. So it seems that we need a breakthrough. Actually, everybody practically is dealing with this. So we advertise our work as looking for physics beyond the standard model or new physics, and so on and so on. Actually, it's also illustrated by the level, the percentage level of our understanding of the universe. So you can express this level in percent just from the fact that we do not understand what dark matter or dark energy is. This is something like 95% of the total amount of our understanding. Why we do not have a breakthrough for quite a time? Some say it's half a century or so. Maybe it is because we try to make this progress. Maybe we try to build our understanding of the universe on broken foundations. So this is my personal view of the cornerstones of our worldviews. I list three elements: science, reason, and faith. And I feel that it's, in general, everything is broken here. So you might, of course, disagree, but I have the impression that the science ignore its exterior, the external impact, which has importance for the very efficiency of scientific research. And it means that if we ignore this important impact, we also use reason, our main tool, only in a selective way. We also understand, we feel that faith area, the realm of faith, is not using reason as well as it could be used, just because the results of science are too often ignored, I'm afraid. So then can we imagine a framework, an intellectual framework where all these three cornerstones work together? So yes, I think we can, or at least I'm trying. And maybe it does not need to be very complicated. Maybe in its essence, it can be connected with the very heart of our humanity. Maybe it's questions which makes us humans. We are asking questions, we are curious. maybe this is a distinction from animals, here very nicely illustrated by Paul Gauguin. What questions, which questions we are asking? All the questions actually form a structure. It's not a set of isolated sentences. We just feel we should understand that each question has some precedence and consequences. So we might think of this structure as of a tree, and this tree should most likely, I think it's reasonable assumption, should have a common root. And this common root, this first primary question would be about the beginning of everything. And here, of course, you might assume a personal God, or maybe impersonal something, absolute with small a and or with capital A. This distinction by Professor Heller, very nice distinction. So whatever the way we choose at the beginning, it has implication on the further life, further choices, further questions. But there might be regions of common interest, for instance, science. So science is practical. Science wants to tell us how to live better. And maybe I will mention, maybe the final goal is also common. Everybody would like to feel good, right? So the left-hand side of the tree brings us to eternal state of some wellness, while also on the right-hand side, if we think of some post-humanic approaches to, I don't know, copying our minds to machines, that also means it's a dream about eternal happiness. Okay, but we are focusing today on science, and already contemplating this slide tells us that science has some context, and importantly for this talk, that this context might include religious thinking, not only as well a set of beliefs, but speaking directly religious thinking. So if we start from the beginning, we might have consequences which affect this region. I would like to give an example in this talk. So if we have a closer look at this very simple illustration of science, how I imagine science and its context, so we understand that there are various external influences. So which choices do we make? Which errors are we unconsciously applying to our research? Which questions are we asking and why? Then simple logistics of science, like coffee, like good boss, and so on. This is all which affects ultimately the essence, the results of science. The context of science could be then investigated. The keyword here I propose is discoverology. You have fancy subsections. There is an article if you are interested in details. So the context of science, important thing for us today. And if we look even closer at the very science realm, we already understand where these external impacts might enter in a most prominent way. So scientific process is beginning with assumptions, hypotheses. That's a clear connection with the conference topic. Then we have the methodology section, where maybe we are not so much affected by our beliefs, but still we need to assume, we need to trust that the methods we are applying are okay, and that they will work good for our research. Then the next stage, also where we need some beliefs, some investing from outside, is interpretations. So science does not exist with hypotheses and with interpretations. And in these two things, in these two stages, the first and the last, we need to invest an external impact. Okay, so faith enters science, but does it have to be a mortal combat? So typically we are used to this picture, that there is a fight and the science is conquering more and more territories of faith, and faith is only defending. But maybe it does not need to be the case, maybe these two realms can cooperate. Maybe there could be a synergy and a chance of progress. So in other words, could the inspirations be mutual? Could the faith inspire science? We are used to the other way, that science provides some input which has to be taken into account by faith, so that we have less and less the faith elements and scientific elements in science. Maybe this is not necessarily the only way to progress. So I propose that we include faith not as a distracting factor, but as one of the tools for science, the tools. So it comes from the context of science, of course, and I mean faith now, all kinds of believing, all kinds that we invest in order to apply reason. We need to believe that we choose well somehow. Then I'm focusing on one aspect of faith, the religious content, religious beliefs. That's my motivation also for this talk. So we have this left-hand side of the philosophical tree. We already have the tools that help us to go around the tree, and we have faith as one of the elements, inevitable elements. Moreover, we have to admit that there is not only occasional faith in interference. We have a permanent reason and faith interplay on all the branching points of the philosophical tree. All the questions, all the choices we make require some external input. We do not have complete knowledge of any situation. Thus, all the choices we make are somehow affected by the external something. And then the question I'm asking here is, are there any special consequences when you choose this way? So can there be any practical meaning? Okay, and let's think bold. The next talk will be also about the bold hypothesizing. So I'm in this thread as well. What if we take religion as an input? This is my perspective of a Catholic. All the truths provided by the magisterium of the Catholic Church, for instance, and then let us think: can we imagine at least a concept of everything, a physical concept of everything, where all these dogmas, all these truths, all this teaching from the religious side is somehow present? Can we imagine something like this, or should we assume, okay, it's a mystery, God somehow does it, we do not need to know? So this is not an attempt to explain, to propose theory of everything. It is only an attempt to point to an example of self-consistent thinking, physical thinking, which is driven by the religion. So the inspiration comes from the top of the tree. That there is also an article, if you are interested, both English and Polish version. It's a maybe introduction to the scenario I'm going to present here, hopefully, if time allows. So we need a bold hypothesis. Maybe this bold truth is at hand. We might just be unable to see it. Maybe we are in the situation of an opaque paradigm where our beautiful theories, beautiful paradigms work so well that they enable us to see beyond. That's maybe why we need an external help. That's maybe why philosophy is should not be only a general companion of a physicist. Maybe it should be a day-to-day connection. So the first question when we ask about the concept of everything is whether this universe is already very well described. Maybe there are only very few discoveries to be made, or maybe there is a lot of unknowns. So the top-down thinking is compatible with this picture, that there are a lot of unknowns, or there is a big truth which we do not understand. Okay, and then I was happy quite recently to discover a concept of everything. It's hard to be called a theory, but it's a concept by Stephen Wolfram. You might know it, mathematicians for sure, because he's a father of of a Mathematica program. He's also a prodigy child in physics, a PhD under Richard Feynman, but then somehow he diverted to IT, but still he does not forget about physics, about fundamental physics. So he proposes that actually everything is made of space-time. We have only space-time, and the particles, elementary particles, interactions, this is all manifestations on some complications within the space-time structure. So the space-time should have a structure. We suspect it. Quantum gravity requires some structure of space-time. So what this structure could be, and what could be the concept of everything related with this approach. So Wolfram proposes that our ultimate theory might have a very simple beginning. So very simple rule at the beginning, then many iterations of the system. Please note this, that some system is required, and then an arbitrarily complex something, maybe consistent with our universe. So the idea is based on, maybe you can think of Conway's Game of Life, where you have simple rules, then some set of cells which behave, which take 0 or 1 status, dead or alive, depending on the neighborhood, in short. Then you apply many iterations and you arrive at an arbitrarily complex system. You have stable structures like these elements here called gliders. They simply are born, they are stable, they evolve somehow. You can imagine not only two-dimensional game, of course, on the right you have something more complicated, but the key thing I want to stress is the need of this initial set of cells. So this is a clear meta level, this cells, you need to compute on something. And then we have a beautiful example of a concept of everything, which includes both physics and metaphysics. So I propose a slight upgrade of the Wolfram system by adding this vacuum cleaner pipe. So we do not only have a tree of relations between the consecutive states of the universe, we also think about the meta level. So how can it be organized? So here is the proposal. You see something like a cross-section of a vein of the space-time, vein of reality. So you imagine this black region is the interior of the pipe, and it is somehow connected with the rest of the system. Then in white you have the cells which form this interior. Actually, you have nothing inside, ontological nothing, and then this nothing is surrounded by the creating factor. Then you also need the absolute factor, as we saw on the philosophical tree. We need something or somebody which solves the issue of the beginning. So this would be the eternal thing or person, right? Then we go further. If we have an empty interior, we might have some feeling, we might have some reinforcement of the white matter, or maybe even the red, the eternal factor, which changes somehow the property of the system. We might also imagine individuals which might be connected with each other independently on keeping individual properties like free will, for instance. So these individuals might be also formed from white matter. So it could be angels, for instance. This black mushroom is humans in this picture. The humans can have some feeling, souls, which keep the structure, which then when the black region is dissolving, when we are dying, then the white can keep the structure in memory, then the resurrection is possible physically, and then it solves issues. So we have issues in the science and faith combat. We have celebrity scientists who tell strongly that free will does not exist, but in the picture I'm proposing, it must exist, because we must have this red factor, either a person or a thing. But this is something eternal without a cause. So if something without a cause is everywhere, then why not in us? Why should we exclude a possibility that this eternal, necessarily existing factor is absent in our minds, in ourselves? The other thing is monogenism versus polygenism tension. So in religion, we prefer perhaps to think about one human pair at the beginning. Then we have the original disobedience, the original sin, and then we know we need salvation. But if science tells us that at the beginning there were not just one pair, but a set of isolated pairs, it's very hard to imagine that the original sin introduces a collective responsibility. So this is very hard. So some say that this tension is leaving only the choice that you either give up science or religion. But this is not necessarily the case in the picture I'm proposing. So duogenism, this is the word from the title, where you have a system where a pair is a group of individuals which are connected with each other. Also, if there are many pairs, no problem. They are connected. They might be connected physically connected with each other. So one mistake of a single individual might bring consequences for everybody. Then it removes the problem. So to summarize, I think there is a chance for an intellectual system where all the cornerstones of our worldview are working very well together. But in this picture, we have science which is not separated from faith. It is just fully immersed with faith. And this is independent on the choice for the very beginning. We either have a personal absolute or impersonal absolute, but in any situation, the science is a derivative of this first eternal cause of everything. And then it's naturally, we need to use all the tools we have. And the reason is our basic tool, where we need to apply it both in the wide sense of faith and in this derivative area of science. And here comes the duogenism concept. Maybe there is a chance for falsifiable predictions. Maybe we can think of a real theory of everything, not necessarily this way that we start from our paradigms and we try to reconcile and to ignore the unexpected observations. Maybe this is not the way. Maybe we need some thinking out of the box, out of our paradigms, where maybe the unexplained observations are part of the system. And here, when you need some top-down thinking, when you need to assume something beyond before you think of the concept of everything, this approach clearly needs philosophical support on a day-to-day basis. So I hope the conferences like yours will be nicely contributing to this direction of thinking. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your criticism. Even the very severe criticism is welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Piotr, for your lecture. We have still a few minutes. So if there are any questions or requests for clarification, maybe, so please feel free to ask something. Maybe just one question for clarification. If we use this typical distinction between the context of discovery and context of justification of theories, where do you put the faith, religion?
So the religion enters for the first time at the very beginning. So we are hitting the wall if we think about the beginning of everything. And I think it's on a equal right to assume it's a personal beginning, a person, God, or something impersonal, like for instance impersonal math, which could be eternal, but who knows how it how it really how is it born actually. So religion at the very beginning, and then if you do this first assumption, then it has consequences, because if there is God, then why you have more questions. So you go down the philosophical tree, and then you need more and more questions. The first assumption determines the next approaches.
Okay, thank you, Piotr. Any questions? If not, thanks. Okay, one question from Mateusz, but please come here to the microphone.
Thank you very much. It was very thought-inspiring. A quick question. In what way the existence or our embodiment within the absolute, be it personal or non-personal, guarantees our free will? Because we know from history of philosophy and theology that it could as well be taken as contradicting it. A very good question. What do you think?
It's not a guarantee in any sense. It's only an option to imagine where a free will can enter. So if you think about the very beginning, right? So you assume this absolute, capital or small a, then you understand that this affects everything, including ourselves. Why not? Why could we be detached from this absolute factor? Then this points to a possibility that we are actually surrounded or affected totally by the absolute factor. That's an option. In any sense, I'm not proposing the explanation. It's just rather towards thinking whether self-consistency can be kept when thinking of a physical system and religious truths.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.